3 more weeks of the NFL regular season remaining, but guys, I've always believed that in order to look forward and make money, you have to always take a serious look back. I've always been a box score junkie. That's the way it's been since I was a young child, because back in the days, Virginia, before there was the internet, before there was that 4-letter network, yes, I had to rely on my local newspaper and what they used to call the agate page, where you'd find all the statistics and all the box scores, and after Sunday's games, I couldn't wait for that Monday newspaper to be delivered. Yes, I'd sit there, I'd mark up all my little box scores, I'd see who played well individually, who played well as a team, and little did I know that all these years later, that's what I would still be doing, but this time for a living. Because I believe that you have to look and analyze teams and individual players' performances, because that's where you're going to spot trends that carry forward for your next subsequent plays when you're evaluating the gambling card. Hi everyone, Al DeMarco here, and this is a little segment that I like to call the Week in Review, or otherwise known as the Rear View Mirror. Cue up the music. Oh, what? We don't have the music going today? Damn. Okay, let's play the graphics and just roll the video. We don't have that going either? Damn. Well, I guess it's just me you're stuck with, guys. But listen, let me take you through a little tour of the box scores from this past weekend's action. You know, I'm looking at the Steelers game this past Sunday, and I see they're at Cincinnati, and they're down 21-17 heading in the fourth quarter. And then they go crazy. The Steelers gained 229 of their 543 total yards in the fourth quarter to beat the Bengals 42-21. Now, you tell me, this is a Pittsburgh team that was embarrassed at home by New Orleans, lost against the Jets in New York, needed a furious fourth quarter rally to beat and fail to cover at Tennessee, and yet they take care of business against Cincinnati? It's only fitting that the Steelers visit Atlanta this weekend, as far as I'm concerned, because you have two teams that just sporadically play defense but can put points on the board. And as for the Bengals, their last 2 home games, they've lost to the Browns and the Steelers by 21 points each. Maybe Marvin Lewis should be a little more concerned with his defense, because that's where he made his bones in the NFL, than calling Johnny Manziel a midget and then apologizing profusely. Because you look at the Cincinnati defense and the NFL team standings, overall defense, they are ranked 28th among 32 teams. The only teams worse, Tennessee, New Orleans, and Atlanta. Speaking of the Saints, if you happen to be a defensive coordinator, or maybe even if you're not a defensive coordinator, but perhaps you can at least get a haircut every now and then, you could be the New Orleans Saints' new defensive coordinator next year, because Rob Ryan is going to be joining his brother Rex on the unemployment line. How Rob hasn't been given the pink slip so far is beyond me. Saints, an embarrassing performance at home this weekend against Carolina. I mean, the Panthers, time of possession, 36 minutes in that game. Saints couldn't get off the field. 40 carries for 271 yards on the ground for Carolina, and a 41-10 road win against the Saints. And how about the Saints? This is a team that for weeks and weeks we had been talking about from a gambling perspective how good they had been at home at the Superdome with Sean Payton coaching, right? At one point, they had won 20 straight home games with Payton on the sidelines, going 18-1-1 against the spread. And then they lost to San Francisco in overtime. And they have subsequently lost their next 3 home games as well. 4 straight home losses to the Saints. Who would have thought that? Now, another sinking team, of course, San Francisco. Because since that overtime win at New Orleans, they haven't done a heck of a lot. That's for darn sure. They're coming off a 24-13 loss to Oakland. I mean, how embarrassing was that performance against the Silver and Black? Niners, 248 net yards in that contest. Colin Kaepernick, no protection whatsoever, sacked 5 times. Meanwhile, Derek Carr, your prototypical drop-back pocket passer, as opposed to the freakishly athletic Colin Kaepernick, who, FYI, remember, San Francisco chose Colin over Alex Smith, right? Derek Carr, 22 for 28, 254 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think other than the game when he had the 4 touchdown passes against the San Diego Chargers in a 31-28 home loss about a month and a half ago, that was his best game in his rookie season. But what about the Raiders? You talk about a schizophrenic team. They get their first win in 118 games when they upset Kansas City in that Thursday night affair. Then they go to St. Louis and they get shellacked 52-0, and then they return home and beat the Niners. Go figure. That's why there are no guarantees in gambling. As for the Rams, second straight shutout for them, 24-0 over the Redskins this past Sunday. First time back-to-back shutouts for the Rams franchise since 1945. Redskins just 206 total yards in that contest. Rams defense in those shutouts of the Raiders and the Redskins, 13 sacks. And that's really been the key to the Rams' resurgence here of late because the defensive line has gotten healthy. Remember, last year they were third in the NFL in terms of sacks with 53. They got off to a horrific start this year, but after getting 13 the past 2 games, suddenly you have 35 going into your Week 13 action. Redskins, they're now catching 7 points at New York against the Giants. Of course, the Giants just snapped a 7-game losing streak with a 36-7 pounding of the Titans in Tennessee. They had 8 sacks of the Tennessee quarterbacks. In fact, they knocked Zach Mettenberger out for the season with a shoulder injury in that one. First go round, remember that one? It was the Giants, a 3.5 point underdog, and they rolled in Washington 45-14, 31-17 first down advantage, 449 total yards in the game. For the Redskins, it's their third road game in 4 weeks. And go back to what I just said about the number of sacks the Giants had against Tennessee. 8 quarterback sacks. Do you realize the Redskins line has allowed 29 sacks the past 5 weeks? Oh, baby. You don't think the Giants, Big Blue, is waiting to tee off whoever quarterbacks for the Redskins this weekend? Let's move on to the Denver game. Oh, guys, did you get backdoored if you had Denver minus the 10 points at home against Buffalo? And if I had told all you fantasy players and gamblers alike out there that one quarterback in this particular game would go 14 for 20 for 173 yards, and the other quarterback would go 78 for 57 for 355 yards, and both guys would have 2 interceptions, you would have bet me anything in the world that the guy that had the more productive game would have been Peyton Manning, but that was not the case. Kyle Orton has returned to Denver after being run out by Tim Tebow. How did that work out, Broncos fans? Kyle Orton, good game, but more importantly, the dagger in gamblers' hearts, because not only did the Bills score 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to get the back door, but they did it in such a devastating fashion as Orton scored on a 1-yard run with 55 seconds to go. Now, Denver at San Diego this week. The road team 7-1 ATS in that particular series. Of course, Chargers coming off the home loss to the Patriots. They jumped out to a 14-3 lead, subsequently lost that game 23-14. Patriots defense held the Chargers to just 216 net yards. Patriots now 8-1 in their last 9. And they are hosting the Miami Dolphins. Remember when the Patriots opened the season in Miami and lost that game 33-20 because the Dolphins outscored them 23-0 in the second half, with 17 of Miami's points coming courtesy of 2 Tom Brady fumbles and a block punt as well. Well, now the Patriots, who of course have won 8 of their last 9, are back at home in revenge. You want to talk about the comeback kids? How about the Houston Texans, who happened to be my personal best bet this past Sunday? They were down 13-10 at halftime against Jacksonville before rallying behind Arian Foster's strong performance on the ground for a 27-13 win. How about the Baltimore Ravens? 17 minutes elapsed on the play clock before they got their first down against Miami. They had to overcome a 10-point deficit, but they rolled 28-13 at Miami, 447 net yards against a Miami defense that has really struggled here lately to stop the run. Remember, in that Monday nighter against the Jets, Chris Ivory and Chris Johnson just went crazy running against Miami. Ravens did the same thing, guys. 183 yards rushing. Miami now allowing opposing running backs to give up 4.4 yards a carry. Kansas City up 14-6 at Arizona, right? Looked like the Chiefs were firmly in control of that game, and then they lost 17-14. Third straight loss for the Chiefs, who had won 5 straight, capping that nice little run with the win against Seattle at home, the Seahawks' last loss. But then they lose on the road to the Raiders, they lose at home to the Broncos, and then they lose at Arizona. Alex Smith sacked 5 times in that game, intercepted once, one of 2 turnovers for the Chiefs. It really ultimately cost them the game. And finally, I look at the Detroit Lions, and everybody's getting all excited because Detroit is playing well. Well, of course they're playing well. They're at home. Matthew Stafford, in consecutive 34-17 home wins against the Bears and the Bucks, has looked phenomenal course, against the Bears and the Bucs defenses, you and I could look phenomenal. We might be Hall of Fame candidates. 60 for 79, 701 yards. Now, the first time these two teams met, Detroit went to Minnesota. It was Teddy Bridgewater's second pro start, and they won 17-3, despite the fact that they were without Reggie Bush, without Megatron, and their rotating place kickers managed to miss 2 of them chip shots in that particular game. Now, Bridgewater, it was not a pleasant experience. No fond memories from that start against the Lions because they just beat the hell out of him. 8 quarterback sacks that day by the Lions defense. In fact, Minnesota, the first 11 drives that particular day, they had 7 punts and 3 interceptions on the first 10 drives. So you got to like the Lions at home in this particular spot here against Minnesota Vikings this week. Well, that'll do it, guys, for your rear view mirror for this past weekend's action. I wish you well. And remember to catch my daily video report each and every day here on the website for your insights from a gambling perspective and your daily free picks. Good luck, everybody.